Thank you for the invitation. I will talk about one thing that we use to engage our audience. It's one specific tool. We use email newsletters, we use emails, we use social media, but there's one thing that we use quite regularly that is not as common as the other things, and this is surveys. So in a sense, we took the what Harkin does or Crowdsource does and built out our own process. And today I want to introduce you to a couple of insights that we made over the years. And I want to show you how we incorporate it into our workflow and how every reporter is using it on a regular basis. So one thing is that we found while thinking about engagement is that there are different levels of engagement, and there's different, let's put it this way, different levels of publicity of engagement. For example, a comment section is public. It's like a stage, even if this comment section is paywalled or something. And one thing we found, for example, is that comment sections are largely dominated by men, for example. So women do not speak out as often in a comment section as men are doing. So there's a problem. Then you have, of course, you have likes, what social media companies call engagement, which is a very superficial form of engagement, and it's happening on the social media platforms themselves, so it cannot add value to your media organization and to your newsroom. So we completely discounted this as a valuable form of engagement. I mean, it is, but in another sense. Then we have emails. So for example, you send out a question to 6,000, 7,000 subscribers of your newsletter and you ask them something, you will get back 200, 300 emails. And I tell you from experience, it's a real pain in the ass to go through 300 emails, copy paste the question, cluster them, whatever. So what we use, oh, that's still the German word Umfragen. We use Umfragen, which are surveys. And we quite zeroed in on this, this tool because it allows you several things. The first thing is surveys are extraordinary. They are something that people are not used to when they think about journalism. So they are used to articles, Insta posts, whatever, but getting asked getting asked in a very structured way is something that usually only scientists do this. They ask people in a very structured way, or marketing people. It's only two people who do this, and using this is kind of a surprising element. It's something that our members always mirrored. Like, it's something that they said, I like surveys because it has a playful vibe, and it's a form of communication that is not very standard and not very. It's not a routine form of communication. A second thing is what we found out. Is we ran the numbers and we found out that there's a correlation between people who fill out a survey and the number of articles they read after filling out the survey. So if you look at the numbers, you see that the average is higher after reading, after filling out the survey. That is the left chart. On the right chart, this is the same analysis for weeks after a comment, after they have written a comment. So both tools are helpful, but what we can see is with the survey, the average effect is lasting longer than with a comment. So what this leads to is that a survey is very, very good for loyalty, for reader loyalty, for membership loyalty. Again, the numbers. People who have filled out at least one survey are on average 40% longer a member of Krautreporter than people who have not filled out a survey. And this is compares roughly to writing a comment. So to summarize, in essence, surveys are a very powerful tool on the journalistic side and on the business side. Let's go into more details. So how do our reporters use it? I have to maybe say something else. Every reporter is kind of it's not like me as editor-chief, I don't ask reporters to use surveys. No, we kind of build a culture around surveys. So surveys are a very natural process of research. So for example, if you start a new research project, one of the first things you will do is you will talk to our dedicated survey editor and talk with him about, do I need a survey? Could I add value to my research? Could I add value to the final product if I use a survey, and so on and so on. So using a survey is one step in an editorial process of like in the editorial process. It's a stable of what we do every day, every week. But surveys also help you, like, no, the other way around. What surveys do is they make your journalism better. And this is not very obvious if you think about it. I mean, it's a survey, you ask people questions, but if you use it the right way, they do make your journalism better. I will show you examples later. How could you use them? You could use them just very generally to find topics. So for example, we send out a survey every month. It's a running survey in a sense where people can just put in questions. These questions get automatically pushed to a dedicated Slack channel, and we have a running list of what is happening in the heads of our members and readers. And sometimes these questions are weird, I have to be honest, and not answerable. But sometimes these questions, like you can see something is happening way before other people see it, because they do not talk to their members. The second thing is what they're very valuable is, for is to find the right angle. So in a sense, one of the main problems of journalism, in my point of view, is that we assume too much knowledge. So we overestimate what people who are not journalists know about current affairs. So, and if you use the surveys in a clever way, you can find out what people know. And you can do this, for example, by asking, what questions do you have about topic X, Y, Z? So there's one example I always give because it's a very striking one. It's in 2017 at the height of the crypto rush. I asked our members what questions do they have about Bitcoin, and 3 or 4 answers were, I don't know enough to even have a question about Bitcoin. So this shows you that you have to really, like, you cannot assume anything. You cannot assume that people know anything about this topic. So you have to structure your article differently if you want them to actually make it to the end and to keep engaged. And then a third one that is very obvious is basic research. You want to find protagonists, you want to find experiences, you want to get recommendations on what to read for your research, and so on and so on. So this you can, I mean, it's obvious and it's very powerful. I will show you in an example later. So for example, this is what we do. This is what it looks like. This is the survey we put out every month. What questions do you have? And just tomorrow, I think we will send out the next email. There's a newsletter only dedicated to this question of the month, as we call it. We collect the answers, we structure them, then we, with an editorial point of view, we go through the answers and we decide, we condense the answers to a top 10 list. And then we put this top 10 list up to a vote, up for a vote. So people can signal what they are interested in. And then we commission 1 or 2 reporters to actually research and write the story. It's a very basic one I did last year is for my climate journalism. I just asked our community, my community, what do they want to know about climate and biodiversity and so on. And then I put out a list of 200 topic ideas, of 200 story ideas for my colleagues to use. So I just wanted to, like, it was a playful way of talking about how newsrooms are failing in climate journalism, because people are not interested in it. And actually, German colleagues from Germany are writing me back and they ask me, can I use this? I say, yes, that's what it's there for. Please use it. Send me an email when you use it. My members will be very, very delighted that you use their suggestion. So this is another example of finding the right angle. It's I wrote about the North Korea conflict 2 or 3 years ago. That was before Trump, I think. And I asked them, what questions do you have? And one thing that became very clear very fast is that people are very interested in the history of this conflict. So it was like every fourth question was about the history. And then I started to think why. And in Germany, the Korea conflict, the Korean War, is something that people have heard of but don't know what this is about, because it's you have the Second World War, very turbulent stories for a German, and the Korean War is something that didn't have to do anything in a sense with Germany. So I realized, okay, I have to spend a lot of time about talking about the history of this conflict, more than talking about current events or what's happening today. So this is an example where I used it. And this one is very, very interesting. This is what my colleague Teresa Feuerlein did. We took a question that was that got asked on Facebook, on our Facebook page. Why do people eat meat even though they know that animals suffer? Why do people eat meat even though they know that animals suffer? We took this question that is a little bit provocative, and we made a bet. We said, okay, our members, they are very smart, they are very rational, and they can use this provocative answer to give us very interesting and insightful, this provocative question to give us very insightful and interesting answers. And this is what happened. Teresa got like 500 answers back. She structured them. She spent 3 weeks clustering them, and then she wrote an article showing what meat eaters and vegetarians or vegans actually have in common. And there's a big chunk, like at least in our readership, there's a big chunk of policy space where they overlap. And became a huge hit, a very successful article. It's very basic. Last summer there was a heat wave in Germany. Our health reporter just asked people for recommendations what to do when it's hot. I mean, it's not special in a sense, but it's something where people can get engaged, and it's something what a reporter can do in a sense as a side hustle, as a side project, because I mean, you do have to put in some research yourself, but this is just in a sense to show the community that there are other people out there that are part of Krautreporter, not only the reporters. So the two main takeaways for us, and I hope for you as well, are that surveys are a very effective tool, not only for your business, but also for the editorial product, like for your journalism. It makes sense from an editorial point of view and from a business point of view. This was a real revelation when we crunched the numbers. I mean, we always had the feeling that surveys help us to lower churn, to increase loyalty. But when our CEO crunched the numbers and could actually prove that it helps us, we recommitted to doing surveys. We we employed a survey editor, and nowadays we look at surveys not as in a sense, as a standalone product. So in fact, if you do a Krautreporter survey, the best thing that would be happening is that the people who fill them out say, okay, that was fun. That was very worthwhile. That didn't feel like work. So that the survey itself becomes a product, becomes a part of your editorial values, you know, so an ambassador of your editorial values in a sense. So this is like a tool, like you can do an interview or a social media post or whatever. If you want to find out more, you can go to this link. We have written everything we know about surveys. We put everything we know about surveys into a playbook. Use it and tell us if you have used it, and tell us if you find out something new. One last thing. Don't ever do clickbait surveys, stupid surveys, never. And this is a stupid survey. Here is one of the biggest German online media organizations asking their Facebook page fans, what do you think about this certain type of medical treatment, which is very, very decisive topic. And this is clickbait. This is sheer clickbait, and it's just there to drive up subscriptions. And where I wouldn't recommend doing it, because you water down the value of all the other surveys. If your members realize that that surveys are just a marketing tool, they will stop filling them out. Like they will just use them. You know, it becomes spam. So don't do it. If you have any questions, ask them now or write me an email.